The first anniversary celebration of the Governor of Anambra State, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, holding at the International Conference Center in Awka, Anambra State. Stay with us.
Let us pray, and to be led by Bishop of Okigwe Diocese, Afikpo Diocese, Utogo, please.
Hello. Let us pray. Almighty God and Father, we thank you for today. We've gathered to celebrate a unique moment in the history of our state, Anambra State, life of the nation, and to celebrate and to encourage Mr. Governor, the son of the soil, who is doing a wonderful work in the state. Bless all who have gathered here. Bless our governor. Bless the people of Anambra State, and bless Nigeria. May Anambra State continue to be the light of this nation, the light of West Africa, the light of Africa, and the light of the whole world. To the greater glory and honor of your name, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please, you may now be seated. We'll go to Kola North. Iwaji. We want to say that in Igbo land, Kola North is presented to a visitor. When you have a visitor in your home, in Igbo land, you present Kola North. And the Kola North understands the language only of the person who is holding it. So Kaime Nifoji, and this will be done by the traditional rulers. So the protocol officer take the Kola North to Ndigwe Kapame Ifoji. Yes, Oji, biko bunyeno ndi igwe Oji ka fa mee ife Oji. Oji, biko. Biko nye na igwe ga-awa ọchị ka o bido waba ya ozugbo. Biko nụ ka e wee kebezie ndị ọzọ, ndị igwe ndị ọzọ ọjị o. I want to ask Hope they gave a kola nut to Baba Nigeria, the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Hope he has been given kola to welcome him to Anambra State. And hope you've given kola to Mr. Governor. Yes. Baba, that is for you. We call it Ojilue Uno. That is the kola that you will take home and tell your people that you brought kola from Anambra State. Yes.
I want one origin. About I never give I die meta. I be a Ichukwa Anambra State. If I'm in Anambra State, they made in Naka. Organized in Naka. And I know in Anambra State. Or Naganiru. Uber. Uber. I be able to answer the prayer. Even there, I know still a Christ.
Thank you. Tony Ezoha. Igwe. Ladies and gentlemen, this auspicious occasion is being held at the International Convention Center in Awka, Anambra State. We have in our midst the man who has transformed Anambra State within 1 year in office, doing things that are unprecedented, never done in any part of this country. A man who came to power when 8 states were under siege in this state, security-wise. We found it difficult to move around in this state, but he decided that Anambra must be cool, Anambra must be calm. He started walking, and today we can sleep with our 2 eyes closed in this state. A man who came, and when he came, there were no teachers in our schools. And he decided that gone are those era of schools without teachers. He employed 5,000 teachers within 9 months in office. That is the man. The man who says that road is one of the most basic infrastructure needed for a state to develop. And he started within 1 year. He flagged off 261 kilometers of roads, and they are working as we speak in Anambra State. The man who decided to give a youth a say in the governance of Anambra State by introducing what he calls 1 youth, 2 skills, so that the youths can be trained, and after that they will be given something to start up in their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who decided that there must be order on our roads. You cannot get stuck on the road that you're going to, wherever you're going. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not for me to tell you what this man has done in this state. He will come when the time comes to tell us how it has been. But ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about that man that Anambra State is very proud to have as a governor, especially at this time when we needed succor, when we needed somebody to save us. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, CFR, Mr. Solution. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, he's here with his amiable wife, the First Lady of Anambra State, a woman who is ever ready to support this man, a woman who is in love with humanity, especially women and children. Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady, Dr. Nonye Soludo, Mama Anambra. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a man who is the real deal, the authentic unifier, Baba Nigeria, the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR. He's here in Anambra State. Thank you. The band hold it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there is also a man who is supporting Mr. Governor in all these giant strides he has achieved in Anambra State, opening the frontiers of excellence. I am talking about the Deputy Governor of Anambra State, Dr. Onyekachukwu Ibezim. He's also here with his beautiful wife, his amiable wife, talking about Mrs. Oluchi Ibezim. Put your hands together for this great woman. The Speaker of the Anambra State House of Assembly is here. The most handsome, the most eloquent, the best speaker in the entire country called Nigeria. Right Honorable Uchenna Victor Episeni Okafo Omekamia. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The Chief Judge of Anambra State is here, ladies and gentlemen, talking about Honorable Justice Onochie Anya Chebelo. Please put your hands together for the Chief Judge. Her Excellency, Mrs. Ifoma Ekwebe is here, the wife of the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Ma, you're welcome. We have the former governor of Anambra State, who you cannot mistake anytime you see him. I am talking about Chief Chukwuemeka Pius Ezife Okwadiki Buku. Please put your hands together for this great Onyanambra. The former governor of Anambra State and the first female governor in the entire country is also here. Talking about Her Excellency Dame Vechi Etiaba, Mama Anambra Emeritus. Mr. Governor, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mr. Governor, the man I want to introduce now, incidentally, is my in-law. I am talking about the former governor of Cross River State. He's here. I am talking about His Excellency Donald Duke. Please put your hands together for this extraordinary Nigerian. Welcome. Welcome. And then, Iroko, Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu Aheje Jemba, the chairman of this great occasion, is here in our midst. The former president of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is seated here, supporting this great occasion. I am talking about his distinguished Senator Ken Nnamani Onwa. Onwa, you're welcome. Distinguished Senator Ima Anosike is also here. Ezibongwa Nambara saying no. Thank you so much for being here. Distinguished Senator Osita Izunaso, welcome you and say thank you and welcome to your home. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst Ozibundu worldwide. Prince, Engineer, Arthur, Eze Nubo, Ozibundu. Chief Daniel Chukwudozie is also here, the MD CEO of Dozie Oil. We welcome you and say thank you for gracing this event. And he's not here alone. He's here with his beautiful wife, talking about Lady Ada Chukwudozie, the chairman of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria Southeast. Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst the wife of the supreme leader of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. I am talking about no less a woman than the former ambassador of Nigeria to Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, former most beautiful girl in Nigeria. Yes, Iyom Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, you're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Dr. Emeka Ofo is here. Sir E, ladies and gentlemen, the MD, CEO of Chrome Oils, and then the chairman of EEDC. Welcome. We will not leave out Chief Simon Okeke is also here. We welcome you and say thank you, the former chairman of the Police Service Commission. Welcome. Another great captain of industry is here, Chief Ezo Kafo, the MD CEO of Jesco Oil, is here with his beautiful wife. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, sir. Former deputy governors of Anambra State are here. We have Chief Engineer Emeka Sibodo. We welcome you. We also have Chief Chinedu Emeka Ikenganam. You're welcome. The national chairman, the state chairman of our great party is here, ladies and gentlemen, talking about Chief Sir Norbert Obi. You're welcome. We also have here the traditional rulers of Anambra State, our revered traditional rulers. We have them in their numbers here, ladies and gentlemen. We have in our midst Chief Mrs. Iyom Josephine Aneni, former Minister of Women Affairs. We welcome you and say thank you for being here, Iyom Ochinawata. The members of the Anambra State House of Assembly, they are here in their numbers, incumbent and incoming. Honorable judges and other members of the state judiciary here present. The secretary to the state government, Professor Solo Chukwulobelo. The head of service, Barrister Theodora Okwi-Igwebe MNI. The chief of staff to Mr. Governor, talking about Mr. Ernest Ezajoy. The acting president of Anes and Igbo worldwide, Ichie Demian Okeke Ogene, we welcome you. And the entire Anes and Igbo here present. The national president of the Association of Anambra State Town Unions, Honorable Barrister Titus Abudo Ichaka, and all our presidents general here present. The ASATU community women leaders, led by their leader, Lady Franca Nwibo. We also have the transition committee chairman of our local governments. We welcome all of you. Commissioners, members of the state executive council here present, service commanders, His Grace Archbishop Valerian Okeke, the Archbishop, Catholic Metropolitan Diocese of Onitsha, represented by Very Reverend Monsignor Theophilus Odukwe, His Grace Most Reverend Alexander C. Bezim, the Archbishop of the province of the Niger and the Bishop of Awka Diocese, the Anglican Bishop of Afikpo Diocese, Bishop Paul Udogo, welcome you, the Chairman of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, PFN, Anambra State Chapter, Bishop Moses Ezedebego, the Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Anambra State Chapter, Venerable Joseph Mweke. He also representing the Bishop on the Niger Anglican Communion, Bishop Owen Mokolo. The UNDP representative, that is the UNDP resident coordinator, the chairman of the Anambra State Security Trust Fund, Chief Chide Anyebu Okiyamichi, and other members, the vice chancellors, directors, provosts, and heads of our tertiary institutions, the President General of ASMATAS, that is Anambra State Market Amalgamated Traders Association, ONWA, and other market leaders here present. Professional bodies, too numerous here to mention, here present. Elder statesmen, captains of industries here present. Transport leaders, civil society organizations led by the chairman, Comrade Chris Nazo, youth organizations, my lords, spiritual and temporal, gentlemen of the press, and the fraternity of the pen, ladies and gentlemen. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, let me invite Chido Obidiegu to take it from here. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as we invite him.
Thank you very much, Shadrach. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I rest on the protocol already very well established by my colleague, Shadrach. I want to speak to the reason why we are gathered here today, ladies and gentlemen. 365 days ago, God hearkened to the prayer of Anambra and gave us a man whose life is a compendium of copious and stupendous accomplishments. 365 days ago, God gave us a man who has climbed the Kilimanjaro and Himalayas of governance. 365 days ago, God gave us a man who is re-engineering, a man who is reinventing, a man who is reinvigorating, a man who is recalibrating Anambra State. And today, we are all gathered, people from all walks of life, the cream of the cream of Nigeria, we are all gathered to glean into his scorecard in the last 365 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say welcome to Anambra State. In a short while, we are going to be showing you the wonders that have happened in Anambra State in like 365 days. For us to move with the momentum of the moment, permit me to invite the chairman of this occasion, a father figure of gargantuan proportion, in the person of Chief Engineer Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyamu, to come and take the chairman's opening remarks for this occasion. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the chairman of this occasion.
Ndibo ekelenu, Ndibo ekelenu, Ndibo ekelenu. Please, I will crave your indulgence, so please permit me to sit down. Most of you, especially those who are older, they know that I have some injuries. while serving our people. I can't stand for too long. So thank you very much. I will rest on existing protocol, but I must express my profound thanks and gratitude to my dear friend Charles Soludo, who invited me to be chairman of this very special event. 365 days in office of Charles Soludo. Charles Soludo is a very proud son of Igbo land, given to Igbo people from Anambra State. Charles Soludo has shown excellence in academics. His record in the University of Nigeria is very clear. He has shown excellence in services to Ndi Igbo. He was chairman planning and strategy of Ohaneze Ndi Igbo. The first chairman planning and strategy was Ikemba Odumegwu. Ikemba Odumegwu handed over to me. Then I handed over to Soludo. So you are talking of a man who has excelled. There is a man who was the governor of Central Bank. And when he was governor of Central Bank, I'm sure our president, our Baba, our beloved Obasanjo will tell better. We never have problem with currency. He did very well. And he made all of us to feel very proud. Let me tell you, Anambra people, when you voted for him to be governor, there was jubilation, not only here in Anambra, but all over Igbo land. Many years ago, he was in PDP. Then I was a member of Board of Trustees. I was representing Southeast in National Caucus. The person who put me to become Board of Trustees and National Caucus was Obasanjo, the president. He gave me that opportunity. I came and campaigned for him that time. But you know, politics in Nigeria, and I told him first time is the best. Eventually, when he won, I was very, very happy. We are celebrating 365 days in office. For Anambra people, I want to let you know that in a larger sense, this is a Thanksgiving Day for Anambra. Anambra people should be very proud and very grateful to God. God has blessed Anambra people. Anambra State, this enclave called Anambra, is the cradle of Igbo development in education, Igbo development in industry, and in other areas. You recollect that in 1857, when the white missionaries landed in River Niger, then they started from there and spread. And Anambra State became an educational center. Onitsha, for example, have produced more leaders in Nigeria because Onitsha has so many secondary schools than any place in this country. Oka here, in the Anglican Communion, my parents were Anglican church missionaries. They were teachers. They will regard Oka as a hallowed ground, the same way we regard a place like Furabe, because most of our parents studied at St. Paul's or St. Mark's College, Soka. So Anambra has been a cradle of all the great things that happened to us over here. So when you celebrate this, you have to be grateful to God. And of course, God has blessed Anambra. You look at great leaders, Nnamdi Azikiwe. You look at my boss, Ikemba Ojukwu, who was my boss, and he loved me so much. I'm glad the wife is here. You look at people like Alex Ekweme. You look at people like many leaders, all from Anambra State. So Anambra is a place that is blessed. So we should bless. And in industry, a man like Ato Eze is a very rare person. He has a wonderful mind. Atueze struggled on his own to make wealth. And he's distributing it to people. We are very proud of him. It's not only here in Anambra. Atueze is given to people all over the country. There are so many things I cannot continue going one by one. You have given me opportunity too to meet some of my friends. People like the chairman of Southeast Manufacturers Association, or that's Ada Chukwudozie, and Dan Chukwudozie is here. And then many people, the governor of Cross River, who loves us so much. But I want to take liberty of this to thank our leader, Obasanjo. Obasanjo is one of the greatest leaders that Nigeria has ever produced. Anybody, it is God's work. I saw Obasanjo in the television in his alma mater, running like a schoolboy at the age of 80-something. He's getting to 90. And I thank God, I gave thanks to God. Obasanjo has scored first in many things. He was the first person to hand over government to a civilian administration. And you remember that time, he didn't hand it over to somebody from his tribe. Obasanjo was the first person to come back and then became a president. Obasanjo showed love to every part of this country. When story is told and history is written, that period of Obasanjo's rule will be regarded as a golden era in the history of Nigeria. Obasanjo, my first contact with Obasanjo was in 1970 when we surrendered. Obasanjo was the person who actually made the war to end peacefully. He's a man of history. God has destined him. Without men like Obasanjo and Gowon, it could have been a different story. Because Biafra was not ready to surrender. But they realized, because the war was continued, we were not ready to surrender. Even if they were bringing the whole weapon all over the world, because we were convinced we were not well treated. He's a very great man. And recently, I want to tell you, Your Excellency, your position in national issues, we appreciate it. We in Ohaneze, we appreciate it. I am speaking to you as the chairman or council of elders of Ohaneze and Igbo. We appreciate you and we support you and we're very proud of you. So, now, I saw the trader association coming here from Lagos. I want to let our people in Lagos to know that on Wednesday, I called a meeting of Ohaneze Council of Elders worldwide, and we x-rayed the events in Lagos. And I want to tell you that we have people who attended the branches in America, in Canada, in Europe, in London, and Nigeria. We have resolved, and I want those from Lagos to go home and tell those in Lagos, we have resolved that never again can we allow anybody to take the life of any innocent Igbo person. All of us are going to fight the person. We are going to fight the person. Never again. We are in Nigeria and we have invested in Nigeria. Our investments are so much. We are not going to take the question of people telling us to go. We are not going anywhere. And I want to tell those in Lagos to realize that there is no war between us and Yorubas. Yorubas they're just political rascals, and we are going to handle them. The elders have directed Secretary General of Ohaneze Ndigbo, Emuche, to set up a commission of inquiry to find out things destroyed. People are going to pay. Meanwhile, I want to say I thank you for this opportunity. I'm very grateful, and I want you to give Soludo support. Give him support so that he will continue to concentrate on his job and do more. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Vintage Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwayanwu, chairman of this occasion. Thank you very much, sir. And I would dare say that our father, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, is superintending here. Our father Nosa, once again. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everybody around you and the roots you have. Thank you, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Governor, permit me to inform us and welcome Mr. Nduka Obaibena, a media guru of this day, and of course, Arise Television, that is also doing this program live, ladies and gentlemen. Can we appreciate a live television, Arise? Yes, thank you, Nduka Obaibena. We are proud of you, and our governor is proud of you. Very proud of you. And of course, let me also welcome in our midst Senator Alfonso Zobi Ibweke, and Right Reverend Professor Israel Okoye, Bishop Ihala Anglican Communion. My Lord, you're welcome. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would like also to welcome and appreciate the banks that are here, UBA, Fidelity. We want to welcome all of you. Our governor says welcome to you, our bank partners. I know there are others here, but I can tell you that Anambra State is doing you well, the banks, and I think you know what to do in response. Onwa Enugu, we want to welcome you, Austin Ogwejofo, Norin. Now, at this point, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is important to see by yourself, live, real, documented, what our governor has done for these 365 days. Very abridged. In fact, it's a bird's eye view, because documentaries are edited to the least space to accommodate. If you have to do a documentary for about all the governor has done with his team for just 1 year, it can be captured in 30 minutes or less. But we've done a little humble professional job to capture a few of these giant strides. Photos, films speak the truth. It is not like Facebook or social media where you photocrop. This one is direct, for real. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, let us introduce a documentary on the activities, programs, and development strides of the Solution Administration, led by our own able, dynamic governor, Mr. Governor, Professor Charles Chukuma Soludo. Shall we go? The documentary, ladies and gentlemen.
Of Professor Chukuma Charles Soludo and Dr. Onyeka Chukwu Ibezim as the Governor and Deputy Governor of Anambra State, respectively, on the 7th of March 2022, marked the fulfillment of the long hope of the people of Anambra State for a resourceful, innovative, and responsible state government with prime development instinct, a government wholly responsive to the creative, entrepreneurial and developmental impulses of Anambra. Governor Soludo came with the 5 solution pillars, namely security, law and order, which decrees tackling insecurity head-on and restoring law and order. Economic transformation and infrastructure, which deals with power, infrastructure, mainstreaming made in Anambra and Anambra standard agenda. human capital and social agenda, which aims at creating a digital tribe, human capital productive at home and exportable abroad. Governance, rule of law and value system, which targets transforming public service, justice system, and mainstreaming Indian Anambra's value system. Environment, towards a clean, green, planned, and sustainable markets, communities, and cities. The above cardinal interests drive the Soludo administration's vision of building a livable and prosperous smart megacity, a preferred place to live, learn, invest, work, relax, and enjoy. The administration inherited worrisome security breaches in the state, which turned even worse at the inception of the new government. Criminals entrenched in various camps in the bushes, buoyed by fetish practices, unleashed terror on Anambra. They had literally taken over the 7 local government areas in Anambra South Senatorial District. Their boast to run the government out of town was, however, met with a very stiff pushback by the Soludo administration. The Anambra Vigilante Group was quickly revitalized and made to work with the federal security agencies, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Directorate of State Security in a joint task force, JTF operation, led by the State Commissioner of Police. The JTF has not only succeeded in freeing the 8 local government councils that were under the stranglehold of the criminals, it demystified the unknown campaign by personally planting some trees in his neighborhood. The trees distributed in dead sprout out of there and endangered species like kola, active kola, and tomato seedlings. The administration procured and distributed to their brands. The administration has made the process of creating industrial estates a gender accelerated economic growth of the state. Acquired as co-agents for an export emporium. This aims at encouraging the new global template and entrepreneurs to attract the global community positively invest in their growing. The administration has commenced work at the cooperated wholesale drug center, which will serve as a regulated distribution hub for drugs in the southeast and beyond. It has also commenced work at the 200 hectares Anambra State Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Hub at 40, while the drug distribution hub, the largest open drug market in Africa. The vision, your working project, numerous pharmaceutical companies coming in to invest will create over 50,000 jobs and attract many and companies with aggregate in. The government will now complete the development of a large master plan by aggregate for a 4-class entertainment and leisure. The project, which aims at boosting the ample working of the state, will be delivered in 4 months. The unprecedented transformation in the road.
Hello, distinguished gentlemen. Mr. Governor, sir, this is a technical issue. We know we played this back and forth and all of that. So we want to apologize. It will come up just like sometimes when you're watching television, it clogs, So, but we are apologizing, and our team of technical personnel are dealing with it. I want to believe that what you have seen already speaks volumes, because there was this lecturer at the UNN then. He was teaching us advertisement. And he got to a point, he says, show and tell. That is, you show and tell. And like I said before, what we're presenting here is not photo cropping. It is real. And we want to appreciate the fact that all of you are here with us today. I can assure that in a jiffy, we'll get this back. Because this is the fulcrum, actually. Mr. Governor will eventually come up here to chat with you, talk to you, and all of that. But this interlude, we want to appreciate you and say that we are with you. And especially, I don't think we've had this kind of assemblage of the cream de la cream in this hall. I doubt. But the personality of our governor has done so much. And it cuts across boards. This is the governor of Anambra State, beyond boundaries. He's an international personality, as we know, and by the grace of God, he's here to serve the Anambra people. And he says he is the employee of Anambra State. That is the servant of the people. So we're happy, Mr. Governor, that we are here together, and especially having Ndi Deka Ateze here. Ozigbo Ndufa here. Ndi Jimalo Anambra na Nigeria. No mobile. Kanga na banafa makoya deka ya sena na ine weli sosai. So, ladies and gentlemen, very shortly we will. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me also add my voice to apologize for this break in transmission. With the permission of the governor, I want to welcome to this occasion the Group Managing Director of UBA, Mr. Oliver Alawoba. Let's put our hands together for him, please. And also the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Fidelity Bank PLC, Mrs. Neka Onyali Igbe. Please, a round of applause for her. I'm not sure we'll capture at this event that we'll have the former governor of Cross River State, you know. Okay, Mr. Donald Duke, we want to welcome you. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, when our technical crew is ready, when they are ready, we'll come back to that documentary. But permit me to invite, ladies and gentlemen, our messianic governor, a man who is transmutating Anambra State to become a livable, prosperous, clean, secure, smart homeland. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a man who has transformed over 35 countries and is in Anambra State today, replicating the same thing in Anambra State. Mr. Governor, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo, a globally recognized, adored, and adulated economist and econometrist. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Solution, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo, CFR. A round of applause for him, ladies and gentlemen. Can I hear you say, Mr. Solution? Can I hear you say, Mr. Solution? Can somebody say solution is here? Say solution is here. Thank you very much, Mr. Governor, please.
Join on the screen. Thank you very much.
Aye. Ndị Anambra ekene m ụnụ. Ndị Anambra kwenu. Ndị Anambra mụọnụ. Ndị Anambra kachanụ. Your Excellencies, the chairman of the occasion, all the distinguished invited guests, our traditional rulers, captains of industries, let me rest on the already established protocol. But when I heard you make the recognitions, I didn't hear you recognize Chief Mrs. Uju Ifejika, who is chairing Oil and Gas Committee. I didn't hear you do that, so I might have to recognize her as well. You are welcome, Chief Mrs. Ifejika. Ndị Anambra, 365 days ago, well, a few days ago, I was sworn in as your chief servant, together with my deputy, Dr. Onyeka Chukwu-Ibezim. On that day, the 17th of March, we took the oath of office. I told you there was no time to waste and there would be no excuses. We worked for 8 hours and 45 minutes on that day. And all through the days from then up until this day, we're still working every day of the week, making sure that every minute counts. Because the job you employed us to do is an assignment with a deadline. We have gone 1 year, 3 more years to go. And each minute must be made to count. And that is why we thought that after 1 year in office, if it's a corporation, the corporation will, the management, the managing director, the president, will call shareholders meeting and present an annual report. What we have come to do today is to present some sort of an abridged form of the annual report. What has happened over the last 365 days? Yes, 365 days of humongous challenges, challenges in the world, challenges in the country, and we even faced natural disaster, the biggest flood disaster in history. We overcame. Yes, 365 days, we know the economic circumstances. Anambra has an economy of 6 to 7 trillion naira economy. But even that, without the size of the economy, we barely collected 20 billion in internally generated revenue for a whole year. Yes, the foundations are there. We're still receiving even reports of contractor debts and all the other liabilities that we have. But we promised you that there will be no excuses. The House of Assembly, within the last 12 months, I think last year, when we came, approved that we should borrow, realizing the mean financial resources of the state, approved that we should borrow 100 billion, but up until this minute, we still have not borrowed a kobo, but we are still trudging on. There will be no excuses. We promise you there will be no excuses. The reason we haven't borrowed is that we are trying to negotiate the best possible terms on the Anambra. We need every penny. The resources that we've expended over the last 12 months, barely about 100 billion or thereabout. If you cascade that and put that in dollar terms, probably 100 and something million, depending on the exchange rate you use, which is a tiny fraction of what used to be in the past. But we promised you that there will be no excuses. In spite of all of those, the humongous security, insecurity, and road crisis that we had, what we have gathered today to say to you in the Anambra, and at least as attested by the feedback we have gotten from all of you in the Anambra who have employed us, is that from what you have told us, it appears that today is certainly better than when we came a year ago. So if they ask about the state of the state is strong and will continue to get stronger. And we believe that in years to come, it will continue to get better and better and better. It's an agenda with a deadline. We have 3 more years to go. 1 year gone. But this first 1 year, ladies and gentlemen, has been 1 year of trying to set fundamental foundational issues. While I said this particular, this particular first anniversary, I'm so delighted, so very delighted about the cream of the Anambra who have come, and very importantly, our partners in progress, our friends and well-wishers, and the partners of Ndi Anambra, friends of Ndi Anambra, and very importantly, I would dare to say, the father of modern Nigeria is here, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who is also my boss. As my boss, under whose tutelage I went for 4 years, woke up every morning, part of the morning prayer team, and learned on the feet of the master. And I think I must say, yes, yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's, the former governor is coming. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes. I think today is a very, very special day. Yeah. It's a very special day. Very special day in Anambra. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much. It's a very special day in Anambra. I was, before you walked in, my predecessor in office, and an illustrious son of Anambra in whom we are well pleased, Mr. Peter Obi. Before you came, I was just appreciating Mr. President, the father of Nigeria, who laid very clear foundations, who happened to be a mentor, one who inspired me, and I would dare to say, one who also encouraged me along this path. And I'm so very pleased, and I want to thank God immensely, that today when we are celebrating our first year in office, that he is here live to witness the seed that he has sowed. I've appreciated all the guests who are here, but my predecessor who just came in We've also recognized Mrs. Etiaba, with whom you worked. Under our own party, when I sent an invitation to him, and I don't think he saw it, when we then met in Aguleri, I reminded him that I had sent him an invitation, and he read it there beside me and promised me that he will come, and here he is. That is Anambra. That is the spirit of Anambra. In Anambra, I did say that even when I was attacked on the road en route to this place, so then this beginning of this journey, I did issue a statement that in Anambra, politics is not war. In Anambra, we play our politics. We might disagree, we might fight. We don't even fight physically. People might have their court orders in their pockets and so on and so forth, as the most litigious people, I am told. But when that is all over, we come together. That is the spirit of Anambra. And I want to thank you immensely, Governor, for coming to this event. Okay, now let us go on. Okay, dear friends, in this short presentation, sorry, like we said, that there's no excuses. Despite the challenges, mean resources, security, infrastructure challenges, we had a road crisis. We promise you that there will be no challenges. And the documentary that was supposed to go was supposed to provide you with a total overview, a summary of what has happened in a nutshell, so that I wouldn't spend much of the time, speaking here on the podium. But let me quickly just go, through this. Like I said, in the first year has been foundational, and we'll be working literally 24/7. In our second year, on our journey to building the foundation for a livable and prosperous smart megacity. From our second year onwards, for the remaining 3 years, we'll be consolidating and scaling off our transformation process. And on this first year, our focus also was, and will continue to be, focusing on the 5 pillars of the Soludo solution agenda. We designed our manifesto. We are committed to Ndi Anambra to deliver everything we have promised you in our manifesto. And we will do everything that we can, despite all the challenges. Of course, SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the state, not exhaustive. We have them all here. This presentation will be made public. So if you are interested, you are going to read it, download it and read. But I'm just going to summarize and go through quite a bit of it. Anambra has, like I said, the economic size of about 6 to 7 trillion naira, with very abundant human resource, human capital, domiciled at home and elsewhere. Anambra people are everywhere, all over the world. Everywhere we are, you have the investors. More than 60% of our non-land assets are outside of the Anambra state. And part of our challenge, part of our mission here is to now come down to build a homeland, an itinerant people that happen to be in everybody's village. But our homeland, for some reason, is seemingly desolate. And it is time for us to build a livable and prosperous homeland, a preferred place to live, to learn, to invest, work, relax, and enjoy. And our vision is that this will be Africa's new axis of prosperity. So that as an itinerant people, going to live outside of Anambra will be by choice and no longer by duress. That's the mission that we set out to achieve. As I said, our 5-point agenda is security, law and order, infrastructure and economic transformation, human capital and social agenda, governance and value system, and of course the environment. The environment is Anambra's existential threat. About 35 to 40% of Anambra's land is under threat of erosion and flooding annually. And then, of course, for us to have everything technology and technology everywhere. On security, law, and order, I think they have tried to, on the documentary, summarize quite a bit of it, but I will send you this to read. But the issue of kidnapping for ransom, banditry, farmer headsmen, clashes, communal disputes, cult and drug-related criminality, separatist agitation, and so on, were so rampant when we came here. But with a single-minded purpose, and in unison with the Anambra, we all agreed that we must take back our homeland. And we took on this insecurity head-on. And today, I don't need to go through what we have done, quite a whole lot of things, including establishing a full Ministry of Homeland Security to deal with this, with commissioner and special advisors on security, and the functional synergy among the security agencies in the state, restructure the Anambra Vigilante Service, and strengthen Security Trust Fund. And Monday Sit at Home has largely loosened, and we could say we set up a Truth, Peace, and Justice Commission to be able to get down to the remote and immediate causes of the insecurity, not only in Anambra, but the entire Southeast. And the Truth, Justice, and Peace Commission has submitted an inception report, and we're already on course to implementing some of their recommendations. But so far, it is good to say, I think to summarize, that so far, Anambra is safer today, far safer today than it was 17th of March last year. On law and order as well, judiciary is a critical component of that. And we've been in partnership with the judiciary. Our chief judge is here, very hardworking, very conscientious, a patriotic son of Anambra. And the judiciary and our judges have been in partnership with us. And with this, we've had, I said, in terms of productivity of our judges, I understand that we rank only second to Lagos in terms of the number of cases that you are able to dispense. We proceeded on sequential digitization of the justice delivery system, enabling virtual hearing facilities, improved power supply in our high courts, and facilitated a new law, state multi-door courthouse that will enhance access to justice by providing alternative mechanism to supplement litigation. Opened a register for defendants convicted for rape and so on, designated courts at the magistrate and high court for sex gender-based cases, and facilitating the amendment of criminal justice law, and so on and so forth. On part 2, which is our economic infrastructure and economic transformation. When we came, the pillars to make this livable and prosperous homeland to happen, the critical infrastructure required to make this happen, include the issue of transportation, especially land in the case of Anambra here. Our water transportation will also be very critical, but also power infrastructure, technology, and so on. And we immediately, recognizing the road crisis that we had, we acknowledged that during our campaigns that Anambra faced a road crisis. And when we came, we immediately declared a state of emergency on roads in Anambra. And within the first 9 months, we awarded and flagged off 261 kilometers of roads touching the entire 21 local governments simultaneously. And you know what is new? What is new and different is that the design and the quality we are delivering with cement stabilization, stone base, and then the thickness of the asphalt, the design and the delivery are such that with the contractors, each of them guarantees us that each of these roads must last minimum of 20 years. That is what is new, and that is what we are doing differently. Also, for all of these roads that we have awarded, we have paid mobilization fees of 30 to 50% to all the contractors, and work is simultaneously going on around the state. All these, of course, what we've done and all through the seasons, and then worked with the local government chairman, especially during the Christmas season, to ensure that all the roads, we had some palliatives around some very terrible places, and so on. The silting, the drainages, is a very key component of this. Next week, we'll be launching a major initiative. When we came, the waste management problem was critical. For decades of lack of planning for our cities and communities, you now have the kind of flooding that goes on. These drainages are filled up, and people have built on the waterways. One of the things that we tackled initially was pulling down a whole lot of buildings that lie even on the Sakamori and at the Wangene area of Onitsha, to be able to allow floods to flow back into River Niger. It wasn't a pretty thing to do, and many of you watched some of the drama that went on there. But this is a task that we must do. Every time it rains, you see flooding on the streets and several other places. This must end. And next week we are launching, we've now finished a study for a comprehensive framework to be able to deal with this once and for all. On the same, on power, the roads we're going to see, and I think sometime next year or even later part of the year, some of you might be coming. I see people coming to do concession, commissioning and so on. We might be calling some of you to come and help us cut the tapes and so on and so forth. But let me say this, on power, power is a critical one. Before I was sworn in, we had a full day brainstorming session with the EEDC at Enugu on power. Because our agenda, our mission is to be able to guarantee to provide 24/7 electricity in Anambra for at least the major cities of Anambra for the first instance. That's our goal. And we met with the EEDC, and when working with them all along, power has improved in several aspects, but not yet where we want it to be. And yesterday, we signed an agreement with EEDC on the issue of more efficient production, even production, distribution, transmission and distribution of power here in Anambra. And our game plan is that within the next 2-3 years, we should be able to guarantee 24/7 electricity in very key components of Anambra State. We've also converted a whole lot of the diesel-powered street lights to solar-powered to go into green energy. More efficient, more cost-effective. And we're now dealing with almost about 17,000 of such being now installed. Our target is to get to at least 25,000 in the shortest possible time. Like I said, the goal is 24/7 electricity. And with the street lights and getting power everywhere, and with security returning, night economy will become a culture in Anambra. And that is how you are going to begin to create more jobs and more jobs and more jobs and more jobs. On the same thing, on the transport thing, we'll develop a strategic transport intervention plan. We're modernizing of our water transportation, especially for riverine areas. And you will see some results on it. the boats and the transport infrastructure in the riverine areas is nothing to write home about. For example, we know that before we came, the only local government in Nigeria that I know that is not accessible by road is Anambra West. Nzam, not accessible by road. As we speak, it's not only that a road is, and the people there, consequently, after harvest, they will transport their goods, their agricultural produce, to a La in Delta State. That's the only place they could go to. They were totally disconnected from Anambra. But today, I drove to Nzam about 3 weeks ago, and the road is getting done. Not only that the road to Nzam will be completed in the next few months, we are also providing now water transportation. We are building some boats and transportation mechanisms, and henceforth, before the end of this year, people from that part of the state will be able to transport their goods down to Onitsha, down to everywhere else that they need to take things. We have bus terminals, modern bus terminals. We are revamping our intra-city and intercity transportation system. Mass transit systems that we are actually working on. And we're also strict adherence to civil aviation safety and operational standards at our airport. We're continuing work to complete Anambra International Airport. It's still a work in progress, but I must pay special tribute to my immediate predecessor who commenced and at least took that airport to the level where at least flights can get there. And also acknowledge him for this particular international convention center that he also put up to us. We've recently completed a feasibility study. Actually, a Chinese company has helped to complete, they themselves proposed it, and they helped to complete a feasibility study, pro bono, on SkyTrain with a pilot at Onitsha. And you would have seen that on the video if we had a chance to look at that. And we're now exploring financing options, and if we're able to arrange appropriate financing options, that itself also for mass transit system around Onitsha metropolis, where instead of people getting caught in traffic for 4 or 5 hours, gridlocks every day, we're also providing all kinds of bypasses at Onitsha, especially one now going from Apaka all the way to Nsugbe to be able to unlock the gridlock at 33 and others. But in addition to this, we are now exploring the possibility of a sky train. I know my friend, the former governor of Cross River, the Duke, maybe we'll discuss that in addition with the proposed we'll talk about that differently. But we are proposing now to have very, very active sky train in whatever form that comes. We are looking at the financing, and I'm glad some of the bankers are here. But it will not be at the kind of interest or so that you were talking about. Let's talk about maybe that will become your social responsibility to Anambra, so to speak. We developed a session on water supply in Onitsha, Awka, Ihiala, Agwata, and so on. We've conducted hydrological mapping of the state, and water supply to the secretariat at the Civil Service Secretariat has been rehabilitated and resuscitated. We collaborated with UNICEF to rehabilitate 98 hand pump boreholes in 7 local governments. And currently, we are constructing, working with NHS to IHS, to construct about 2,000 kilometers of fiber optic ducts. 2,000 kilometers around the entire state of fiber optic ducts that will ensure last mile connections so that all around the state, people can have access to cheap, accessible, high-speed internet access all around the state. This will be the foundation for our migration to having a digital tribe. and will decide on commencing construction of the leisure entertainment hub around Agolo Lake. Agolo Lake is, if you see the photo, and they would have shown that on the video, we've now acquired, I think, another 26 to 32 hectares of land there. What we are envisaging around Agolo Lake will be part of our mission to create a new economy of leisure, entertainment. Our own African Disneyland will be there around Agolo Lake. And that is what is being designed, and that's what is going to be there. Well, I'm glad my predecessor, Peter B, was clapping hard here. That is his community. That's maybe when we, because I know it's a walking distance from his house in the village. So maybe you turn your house into a hotel and people will be coming to rent it, and then there will be quite a lot of money to be made. We've acquired about 250 hectares of land and signed a PPP agreement with 7 companies for what we call the new Awka City. 3 companies have already moved to site. The Housing Corporation has already acquired about, out of the 21 housing estates, many of them non-functional, 4 of them are back on stream now. And on agriculture, we launched the regenerative agriculture state policy aimed to produce natural organic food through sustainable means. We have the new palm and coconut revolution, and we are going back to our roots. Mr. President, we are going back to our roots. The economy of the Eastern region in the 1960s was the fastest growing regional economy in the world, growing at about 9-point-something%. That's the fastest we've ever grown. Maybe the second fastest, or well, the fastest growth areas of the state. And of course, healthcare. Healthcare is quite a whole lot has happened in the area of the healthcare. Because for us, that is bottom line. In the first 3 months or so, we distributed in partnership with our development partners some 3.8 million mosquito nets, deployed the emergency response team that contained the monkeypox outbreak, deployed drug revolving fund in state hospitals. We have ongoing upgrade of 3 major general hospitals at Ekulobi, Enugu, and Umueri, including dental units. We have 30 centers for cervical cancer screening treatment already established, and we have established state emergency medical services or ambulance system, drug quality control lab at Amako, and recruitment and deployment. And yes, very important, that most of our hospitals, if you looked at the data that I shared a moment ago, you'll see that our basic infrastructure, health facilities, happen to be dominated by the private practitioners. And my Commissioner of Health, we were discussing the paradox, and he said the reason for that is because the public health institutions have not worked. And therefore, we decided to flip it, to now make the public health institutions to work by rebuilding the general hospitals. We started with 3, and we're going to get into the levels as we go to rebuild the public general hospitals. And now, yes, ending the era of hospitals without doctors, hospitals without pharmacists, hospitals without nurses. And we've embarked on the recruitment of about 244 of them, that are 244 professionals that are helping us, doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and so on and so forth, and conducted medical oxygen, construction of medical oxygen production plant at General Hospital Onitsha, establishment of an endoscopy unit at General Hospital Onitsha, and so on and so forth. Analyzers to the laboratory department of general hospitals in our places. In the Anambra, our health is our wealth. And we will give every attention. I think this year, in our budgetary allocation, we more than doubled or tripled what we had last year for our health. And I think similarly for our education. This is our priority. This is our future, our human capital. And, for example, social protection initiatives that we have launched. We've launched innovation program of Anambra State, the Soludo Innovation District. Okay? The Innovation District. And this is focusing on raising the digital tribe with deep technology, startups, inventions, research, commercialization, creative talents, and SME innovations. In the Anambra, by October this year, we are going to have the Anambra Week, a whole 1 week, where we celebrate, we fish out the Anambra talents, the inventors, the innovators week. We are going to have the Anambra Talents, Invention, and Innovation Week in October this year. We began commencement of phase 1 of One Youth, Two Skills program. This government, our government, is about the youths and our children because they constitute the future of Nigeria. They constitute the future of Anambra. And we are now training about 5,000 of them, and we have set out about a few billions of naira to be able to empower them upon graduation in the next few days. I think the first graduates will finish in the next 2 months. And we have launched the Anambra Digital Tribe. Like I said, we signed an MOU with Microsoft on Tuesday and launched the Anambra Digital Tribe. And from Tuesday to yesterday, went the portal for people to indicate interest. Because we set out to train about 20,000 youths this year on basic and advanced digital skills. And between Tuesday to Friday, over 10,000 people have already applied. And we're expecting much more applications coming on in years to come. We have about 2,438 poor and vulnerable people received, over 2,000 bi-monthly. 500 women and youth provided short-scale vocational training and met eligibility criteria to partake in the Nigeria for Women program, a World Bank program, and we successfully implemented our social investment programs. We've established a sexual and gender-based violence unit for prompt interventions on related issues and tracking or reporting of such issues to the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and of course our own ministry here. We've developed our draft social protection policy. Several micro agenda issues all across 15 communities and 8 local governments have also been implemented. Yes, the fourth, before the last one, is governance. Governance and value system. Massive challenges. This is where we try to reform how government works. Reforming how government works. My president will recall the reform that he also led during his regime on reforming public sector reforms. This is the same thing. If the public sector cannot provide service to the people, then forget it. And therefore, the problems of inadequate human capacity, low utilization of technology, poor accountability, and bureaucratic civil service processes, and so on and so forth. We have begun to deal with this very, very vigorously. We developed an execution strategy for the reforms of the civil service into a more focused, citizen-centric organization. We've began to restructure the MDAs to align with the administration's priorities and salaries. And yes, I must say this, when we came, I know that around the country today, around 16, 17 states have difficulties paying salaries. I was looking at the results of the governorship elections and seeing people jubilating in some of the states, and with a hope that workers can now be paid salaries as at when due. That's something as basic as this. Well, we have come, despite the financial resources. I hate to begin to talk about payment of salary as an achievement. For me, that's most elementary. We don't talk about this. But one thing that was a missing link when we arrived here, of course, the salary bit will continue to pay that every 25th of the month. But what is missing was that for 4 years, pensioners did not receive their gratuity. And so we had billions and billions and billions of backlog. And when we saw this, I felt the empathy because my father also retired as a worker. And I could not imagine what it would have meant if on retirement he wasn't paid his gratuity. And so we decided that at least under my watch, that everybody who retires from civil service and even the local government service commission itself, henceforth since March last year, all pensioners not only receive their pension, but also receive their gratuity now as we go. We not only did that, we have gone back to the backlog. We have gone back to the backlog starting from 2018 and began to clear the backlog, and we are doing that sequentially and gradually. At least there is hope that one day your gratuities all will be cleared off, as the case may be. We have also, in empathy with the working people of Anambra, the civil service and the public servants, decided we know the inflation rate today. We know the inflation over 20%. So the real income of people have come down. Even the cost of construction has gone up significantly, tripled as the case may be. You know, the cost of diesel. But we had empathy for the civil servants. If we expect so much from them, we must also try within the limited resources to empower them. And we agreed, and last December, we announced and started implementation from January to have a 10% increase in their salaries across board, across the entire state. Now, Anti-Corruption Steering Committee has been domesticated in every ministry, and we have established a delivery unit under the Governor's Office to help us, what we call C, Strategy, Execution, and Evaluation Office, under my office. And we have developed strategic plans for all the MDAs and performance agreements signed with them. Yes, we are doing everything to promote meaningful work, that you earn something and not rent. We've been mainstreaming a slogan that Arboro is not work, and that you must put in value for something. We don't just give you an appointment to sit and do nothing and earn something. You must have value that you produce from the Anambra. Prudence and value for money happen to be a major plank on which we campaign and promise in the Anambra. On my inaugural speech, I did spell out 2 conditions, 2 questions that I must ask to spend public resource. 1, if it is money I have earned personally, would I spend it this way? And number 2, if I collect this 1 naira, 2 naira from Keke and Okada and so on drivers, is this the best way to spend this money? If I told you on my inaugural speech that if I can answer yes to both, I will not do that. And we have gone on part of the ways we have tried to do much of what we have done with limited resources, low revenue base, and without yet borrowing, is that we have squeezed and cut off magnificent fat and waste from the governance process and from the way government works. And a typical example I like to give is that when I assumed office, contracts were in existence for facility management. Facility management, that is to clean up offices and so on. And it was costing 137 million every month. And I thought, 137 million a month to clean offices, would they turn it into gold when you finish cleaning? And we had a review and review and review until I finally asked, why couldn't we employ 200 persons, minimum wage, to do this cleaning? And that will be, minimum wage will be 6 million. add another 4 million to buy detergents and the condiments, that will be 10. And I asked the committee to demonstrate why we should pay more than 10 million a month. Long story short, they came back finally with a report that they've now come with a bill of 11 million. And since then, for almost 8 months now, we have been cleaning, doing facility management all around the state with 11 million a month, saving 126 million every month. That is the kind of thing, and with our procurement process, it's so transparent and open, and you go on open bazaar, bidding downwards. And we have saved over 10.4 billion in the process. We've commenced a rollout of electronic government procurement system, commenced work on 31 years. For 31 years, Anambra State remains, and I don't know any other state that does not have a functional government house or a governor's lodge. Office of the governor works in Awka, but lives in Amawabia in a different place. That place wasn't designed as governor's lodge. And for 31 years or 32 years, we've decided on coming into office that we must break that jinx. And today, as we speak, massive construction work is ongoing to give Anambra State a befitting government house and governor's lodge here in Awka as the state capital. We've established the Anambra Geographic Information System, reformed and thrown away the old system that we made that was derelict and non-functional, and put up a new one, and the implementation is at top gear. Over 40 CFOs were signed in the last 1 year, even with new commissioners taking office 3 or 4 months afterwards. We implementing fast-track process for mortgage transactions, reducing the processing time by over 80%. From an average of about 6 months to transfer mortgage, it now takes about 3 weeks to do that, and we are heading to 3 days to be able to transfer mortgage in Anambra, 72 hours. That's what we're committed to in our manifesto, and we are committed to delivering that probably over the next 1 year. We've implemented digitizing the budgeting and warranting processes and engaged our partners, the UNDP, the Tony Blair Foundation, World Bank, and so on and so forth. Development partners have been wonderful with us, and I will find time to acknowledge them at the appropriate time. We've restructured the Anambra Investment Promotion ANSIPA into Anambra Development and Investment Corporation. They will also have a financing arm. And we've conducted a forensic audit on all existing partnerships and joint ventures and created a Ministry of Petroleum Resources and Ministry of Homeland Security. We are entrenching e-governance and leveraging technology. Of course, our IGR has been quite, it's been a challenge. As I said, throughout last year, with a GDP in over 6 trillion naira, barely 20 billion. For the entire year, 1-point-something billion was all that we could collect as IGR. For comparison, Lagos was collecting about 65 billion a month, and we collected 20 billion a year. But if you check about trajectory of 2 roads, just 2 roads, 50-something kilometers, either way, built with the best standard in the world, it's costing a little bit over, 2 of them will exhaust the 20 billion that we contributed. It remains a work in progress. We are reforming our tax system, and we are hopeful that eventually we will be able to raise the revenue that we require. If only every Anambra person living in Anambra or elsewhere, after all, Nigeria has a peculiar federalism that recognizes 2 residences, recognizes state of origin, and recognizes your place of residence. And why wouldn't, if all on the Anambra, which happen to be uniquely itinerant, if everybody can pay, whether you are in Lagos or in Abuja, pay 50% of your total tax to Anambra, just 50. Pay the other 50 where you think you reside. Pay 50%, and if we generate just 5% of income of Anambra, 5% of 6 trillion, you can do the math. and you will not come to less than 300 billion or thereabout. And I will want to tell you in the Anambra, if everybody pays just 5% of his income to Anambra State, my contract is that every penny you put in our palms, we will show you value. And in 3 years, Anambra will be somewhere else that you will not recognize. We are reforming the local government system, management system to ensure greater transparency and accountability. We've installed solar power destined to all the local government headquarters and so on and so forth. Town union elections are now by option A4, and peace has returned in most of our communities. And then local government headquarters that were burned down or vandalized by these criminals have either been completed in refurbishment or ongoing. We settled age-old disputes and trained over 1,000 local government workers and so on and so forth. And we are working now on a law to transform our community governance to truly be the fourth tier of government with our own mandatory allocations or statutory transfers to the communities every month. The fifth and the last one is our sustainable environment. As I said before, 35 to 40% of Anambra's land space is under existential threat. Anambra is the erosion capital of the world. Did you hear that? Anambra is the erosion capital of the world. The nature of our soil and, like I said before, the nature of the planning. Many of the gullies or drainages that are constructed have no final termination points. And so we have flooding everywhere, and landslides happen to be a major feature of our place. Anambra's landmass is second only to Lagos. But Lagos is expanding by reclaiming the Atlantic. Anambra is shrinking due to erosion. But we must do something about it. It is an existential threat, and we have begun to battle this. I mentioned what we are launching next week. Next week, we are launching the Clean, Green, and Sustainable Anambra. And our game is to make Anambra State ultimately to become the cleanest and most sustainable state in Nigeria in terms of environment. We must clean the waste, turn the waste to wealth, and then be able to replant trees. We have a 1 million tree planting initiative and making tree planting to become a culture, as it were. The silting of the drainages we are going to begin simultaneously next week. Next week, Saturday, the 1st of April. That is not April Fool. Saturday, the 1st of April, will be the day that we'll begin this launch. And everybody will get their own shovel and everything, and we'll get to the disting and begin to desilt. And of course, with massive tree beautification and urban regeneration efforts. We managed and survived the biggest flood crisis in 2020 that covered half of Anambra State for many weeks, destroying lives, livelihoods, assets, and public infrastructure. We are finishing the drafting of environmental sustainability bill now that will soon get to the House of Assembly. We must restore, we must take back our environment for our grandchildren to come. On our environment again, on urban development, we inaugurated the Anambra Urban Regeneration Council, headed by the best and the brightest of our architects and town planners. And their major mandate is to help us think through operational plans to breathe back life, modernize our existing cities, and to also develop templates for development of new ones. And we are on that working very seriously, to turn our chaotic slums into modern urban state. Because Anambra is rapidly being fully developed. Buildings everywhere in a chaotic manner that if we don't put our feet down today to enforce town planning and to get planning done in a more sustainable manner, we will end up with a one mega city, but of a chaotic, that become a chaotic slum. But for it to be a smart mega city, where the world would like to come to, the world where I would like to live, a state where I would like to live, and my children will be proud to live, and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And for all of us in the Anambra, today, the first best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to do so is today. And so we are taking the issue of urban regeneration very, very seriously. Removal of projections to regain proper setbacks. It's not going to be fanciful. We're already doing that in some places. Somebody joked that elsewhere in the rest of the world, people have setbacks. Here in Nigeria, we do set forward. Provision of pedestrian walkways, cycling routes, demolition or removal of dilapidated structures, desilting drainages, and so on and so forth. On next steps, gentlemen, I can't go on and on with this, but on our next steps, we have quite an agenda. Over the next 3 years, this is an agenda, as I said, with a deadline. 3 years' time, when we're done, we will be simultaneously looking into all these areas, deepening our security architecture to make deepen security in Anambra. Our export emporium and our shoppers, largest shopping mall that we are envisaging, as I mentioned earlier. Partnership with the judiciary and legislatures for reviewing of laws and speedy dispensation of justice. Urban regeneration and modernization of major cities, and so on. Construction of at least 100, put 100 here, but that's being modest. We'll probably do a lot more additional, in addition to the 261 that's already ongoing. Mass transport, developing inter and intra-city transportation system, water, sky train upon syndication of finance, our industrial cities and export processing zones, continuing work on the airport to complete it, become fully functional as it should, provision of 24-hour electricity in partnership with the EEDC and other providers that may be coming up as well to work in this space. Democratization of digital skills, building a new Orca city. As I said, 7 contracts of developers have already been identified and signed agreements with them. Upgrading infrastructure in our schools and hospitals, urban water schemes, especially Orca, Onesh, and Obizi water supply, recruitment of specialized teachers and more teachers actually for our schools, entertainment, the Agro Leisure Park and Entertainment Park, at least phase 1 of it should have been completed. Launching and implementation of ward-based cooperative intervention programs across the 326 wards in Anambra. Continuous youth skill enhancement program. Mainstreaming sports as an economy. And mainstreaming the solution, talent, invention, and innovation district agenda. Our agenda ultimately, because we envisage a state where everything is technology and there is technology everywhere. We want to mainstream these digital skills up to a point that every child in primary, secondary, university, in the markets, in the villages will have access to technology and digital skills. We want to mainstream it as a way of life, that technology becomes a culture for a people that hopes to have human capital that is productive at home and exportable abroad. This is a huge agenda, and of course, our agenda on the environment will continue, and so on and so forth. How do we get there, ladies and gentlemen? We'll be moving our IGR, as I mentioned before, targeting to get to 5% will make a fundamental difference for Anambra. Our prudent and transparent fiscal management, we are doing more with less. That's our mantra in government, doing more with less. And there are dozens of examples of what we are doing so far. We're doing more with less. Patronizing what we make here. Even the food we eat, the food, the drink you have when you come to the governor's lodge, nothing is got to be made. If it's not made in Anambra, it must be made in Nigeria. We're not importing anything, and no imported thing shows up there as your drink. We are doing more with less. Ease of doing business and mobilization of private capital, mainstreaming citizen community ownership development, and so on and so forth. We are our PCPP, public community private partnership, is the agenda. And then strategic partnership with our international partners I have a long list of them here to acknowledge: UNDP, World Bank, and so on, UNFPA, and all the embassies that have been of immense help to us, UNICEF, and so on and so forth. In conclusion, the Anambra, 365 days have come and gone. We have 3 more years to go, and we must make every minute to count. So far, with regards to criminality, we've taken back our state, largely so. But it's not enough. Even though there is no crime-free society in the world, our goal is zero tolerance for insecurity and criminality in Anambra. We've told those in the bush to come out. We'll give you skills to start a new life. Thousands of skills youths are being trained. The 0.01% in the bush cannot define who we are. The other 99.99%, and I can see some of the youths around the corridors here, who are receiving the skills, and we will be giving them the enablement to be able to have a new life. We will continue to transform this. The criminals come out and we'll give you a new life. Anambra must be safe, and we are not going to rest until we've restored absolute peace in Anambra and security. We need to continue to bond together as a patriotic team for the development, and to defeat evil together. This is now time to translate our homeland consciousness and love into action. Wherever you may be, Onye Anambra, ultimately, most of us, wherever you may live, whether you are in Atlanta or Houston or in Canada or in London or Italy, or whether you are in Abuja or Lagos or wherever, you will realize we love this place so much that when we die, we ultimately want to be interred here. We don't want Anambra for you who happen to live abroad to be only a place for burial, your burial land. This must be a livable and prosperous homeland for an itinerant people. You want to be able to say, wherever you may be all around the world, at the worst case scenario, you will be able to return back to your village and call it home. And it should be livable, it should be prosperous. For me, development of Anambra is personal. Personal in the sense that, just like I learned from my boss, who is here, President Obasanjo, when he left office as president of Nigeria, he did not stay back in Abuja. He does not live in Lagos. When you want to see him, you either go to Abeokuta or you go to Otafam. I would like, when I finish this job, it's personal to me because I want to join hands with everybody here and all our partners to build a state that I will be proud to live here even after leaving office. This is the land I want to build. And so it's so personal that I am so emotional about it, that we must make it all work. And therefore to you, we have not been able to do anything all by ourselves. We have been able to do so collectively together. Without you, the people, without your cooperation, without the cooperation of our major stakeholders, without the cooperation of our friends, even the federal government and the international community. Sometime, I think June 9th or thereabout, we hosted the entire international community, the ambassadors of major countries of the world, 19 of them, and all the development financial partners. They took a chartered flight into Anambra, and we toured the state. They saw the promise, and they continue to promise and continue to stand by us. For the Anambra, the goodwill is there. The environment is getting better. And together, all of us can bond together. Whatever we will that Anambra can be, it can become. If only that pride, that people, the people of Anambra, the billionaires all over the world, and all over Nigeria, just 5 to 10 to 25% of your wealth back in Anambra, Anambra will indeed become that African Dubai, Taiwan of our dream. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and I see you again in the next 1 year.
Wow. Please, a round of applause. Calling Mr. Solution. Yes, the amazing stars. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations to you, Mr. Governor. Congratulations. God has done it. Yeah. Congratulations to you. Mr. Governor, congratulations. Congratulations to you, Mr. Deputy. Congratulations. God has done it. Yeah. Congratulations to you. Thank you. Bravo. Thank you. Bravo, bravo to you. Hip, 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 hooray to you. Well done, God has done it. Yeah, congratulations to you. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to this occasion, ladies and gentlemen, His Majesty Igwe Nameka Alfred Achebe Abogidi, DOP of Onitsha. Please put your hands together for him. His Excellency Dr. Nkem Okeke, the former Deputy Governor of Anambra State, you're welcome. And then Honorable Dosie Nwankwo is here, Onyendosi, we welcome you. Obi Okoli Onwa Nofija, we welcome you. Chief Paul Okonkwo, Ochi Sofia, the chairman of Poco Bros Group. We welcome you. Dr. ABC Ochiako, former chairman, Seplat Oil and Gas. We welcome you. Chief Ben Obi Igwabga, we welcome you. Obokanaba, we welcome you. Chief Mrs. Uju Ifejika, the CEO, Britannia U Oil and Gas, and chairman, Anambra State Oil and Gas Committee. We welcome you. Chike Chikeloba, Trudy Ofodile, the acting Secretary General Ohanes Ndibo Worldwide, we welcome you. Ambassador Oke Emuche, President Ohanes Ndibo Anambra State, Obi Chukwemeka Udodeme, and then Onwa Enugukuno Mundre, Chief Austin Okwejofo, Chairman Rotek Group, we welcome you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me hand over to Chido to continue from here.
Thank you very much, Shadrach. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I have the singular honor and privilege to invite to speak to us at this auspicious occasion the grandfather of modern Nigerian democracy, the president with the capital letter P, one president that never left anybody in doubt that he was in charge when he was the president of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the longest serving head of state and the president commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. One of Nigeria's greatest prodigies and compatriots. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about none other than former President Matthew Okikiola Olusegun Obasanjo. A round of applause for him, please. The former head of state and the former president, commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Ebo.
Please be seated. Please be seated. Please be seated. The chairman of this occasion, the governor of Anambra State, and former governors of Anambra State, and former governors of other states, Your Majesty, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. You have heard what I have heard. So you can judge for yourself. But I have a few things to say. First, the chairman asked us for permission to sit down. Chairman, we happily granted you permission. But it reminds me of late Chief F.R.A. Williams. He was given in a court. He was making a case for weight of evidence because he wanted to really make his case for that on that occasion, on the weight of evidence. After he has laboriously made his case, he sat down and the chair collapsed. He said, that is the evidence of weight. So your request was granted on the basis of evidence of weight. Yes. Oh. Yeah, this is restriction. Okay. They have now said I cannot move outside this restricted area. I will try and keep within that. But even when you talk about when we first met, immediately after the war, that you didn't remember that one of those who helped me in forming my first cabinet was yourself. And I thank you for it. And you remember it, how it happened. Let me come to Soludo. When I had Chukuma working with me as my economic advisor. We worked very closely together. And he never one day misadvised me. Not one day. And I was so happy with him that I decided to send him to the central bank. He was the second Nigerian who was not a commercial banker of some sort sent to the central bank. And he performed so wonderfully well. But on one occasion, soon after I appointed him, somebody came to me and said, "Wow, you have ruined the economy of Nigeria." I said, "How?" He said, "An able woman, Minister of Finance, an able man, Governor of Central Bank, then you have really completed the task of running the economy of Nigeria." Now, I don't know why he said that, except for what I can call hypophobia. And don't take that lightly. It remains, it persists. And I like what Chief Enwayamu said. I believe on the 13th of January, 1970, Biafra died and was buried, actually in the house of my friend here, Chief Simon Okeke in Amici. Is that correct? But when you have that type of thing that was said to me, and the type of thing that you know is going on, what I call, as I have just called it, what do we do with it? I believe we have to go back to the scripture, which says we must conquer evil with good. And whoever you are, wherever people are being afraid of you, you must make yourself friendly to those who are afraid of you and earn their friendship by being good to them. And that is what we have to do. I have personally experienced that. And nothing wins friendship like you being friendly. But then, for me, the appointment of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and the appointment of Chukwuma Soludo were probably best of the appointments that I made when I was
president. I used to have fun because Chukwuma was not really a fan of the World Bank. And Ngozi came from the World Bank. And we had a woman who was on the desk of Africa in the World Bank called Kruger. And anytime Kruger was coming to Nigeria, we had to prepare as if a president of another nation is visiting us. And Kruger will come, he will give us what he thinks we are not doing right. He will then write a letter to us, which I had to reply. And I will give that letter to a copy to Chukwuma. Give me a draft. A copy to Ngozi. Give me a draft. Chukwuma's draft will be so strong and almost saying no to everything. Then one day I called him. Of course, I would take the two drafts and spend the night and write the letter that will go to Kruger. And one day I called Chukwuma. I said, look, never you say no to World Bank. Otherwise, they will rub your face on the ground. But never you do their bidding. And that was the way we handled the World Bank together, and we succeeded. Chukwuma was a good economist, and he turned out to be a good central bank governor. Because central bank is not like a commercial bank. Central bank is for development. And part of the problem we have suffered in the past, and we are suffering today, is central bank has not performed its job as a development bank as it should have. Well, I left Chukwuma in the central bank, and as he himself has pointed out, I went back home. And I like what you have said about home. I will come back to some of the things you have said before I conclude. But because of my experience with Chukwuma, I earmarked him for something greater in my mind. Until one day he came to me and said he was going to contest election as governor of Anambra. I did not disguise my anger against him. And I said, Chukwuma, governor of Anambra, no, I see you for something national or international. What is this governor of Anambra? Of course, he said to me, you started this You remember one morning when we were together, and I came for morning devotion, and I say, let us pray for the new governor of Anambra. And I snapped and say, what prayer are you making? Of course, my experience of Anambra then was Dr. Ngige and Chris Uba. And then you will not blame me for my reaction. So I then said to Chukuma, I said, when people like you are running, he reminded me, because he said, what I said on that occasion was, I said, when people like you are running away, so what do I expect? Hooligans will take over. And then I should not go. People like him should not complain. So he reminded me of that. I said, oh, yes, I remember I said that. Well, he went. You didn't make it on that first occasion, if I remember, as governor. Then this next one, he came. And when he came, of course, I remember what I've said before. So I just said, Chukuma, you can go. But still don't forget that I reserve you for national and international. But both this governorship as an appetizer. And then the main menu will come later. So you are on your appetizer stage. And the performance, as we have seen today and as you have told us, confirms what I said to you on that occasion. From what I've heard and what I have seen, you have not disappointed me. And I believe you have not disappointed the people of Anambra State. I like the 5 items, and you know me. I believe any item that you want to deal with that are more than your 10 fingers, there are too many. It should not be more than 10 fingers. And you have made yours even 5 fingers. Good. And you can easily follow and identify what progress you are making. I commend you for that. But let me, on that, talk about your first item, infrastructure and economic transformation. From what you have said to us and from what we saw, particularly on road infrastructure, you are making progress. If in 1 year, 365 days,
52 weeks, 12 months, you can do as much as you have done with lean resources that you have, 261 kilometers of road. Then you will do a lot more in the next 3 years. But I like the point you make about agriculture. I don't talk about agriculture now, I talk about agri-business. Because it is all the way from equipment for land preparation up to food on the table. But let me advise, please, on agriculture, let us take not more than 3 or 4 items. You seem to want to go for palm, oil palm. Do it and let Anambra become the leading oil palm producers in Nigeria. You can do it. And I know you can do it. I give you the example of Vietnam, a place I have visited about 4 times in the past 2 years. Vietnam was not a country producing coffee. They decided to go into coffee production. Within a space of 6 years, Vietnam became the 2nd largest producers of coffee in the world, only second to Brazil. You have the experience, you have what it takes. Let Anambra become the leading oil palm producer in the country. You must, of course, take one food crop or one food, and I will suggest that you take cassava, which is both food and industrial. Then, of course, you have to take one livestock at least. Poultry and aquaculture, because you have water, are the 2 that I will recommend to you. On human capital development, you have put it in your statement. You want to develop for home, and you want to develop for export. Human capital development. And everything you have said about that, I very much commend your effort. But when we develop our human capacity for export, it's not a waste. In fact, the experience they bring back, the outreach they get, the intellectual property they bring home, and of course, the money they send back home is very, very important. And like you have said, east or west, home is the best, and they will also be looking forward to coming back home. And what you are doing at home will be indeed very important. Let me just talk and mention 2 things about manufacturing or industry. You talk about drug manufacturing, storage, and marketing. Why can't Anambra State also be the drug manufacturing center for Nigeria? And when you look at the paucity of the drugs that we manufacture in Africa, it's less than 2% of the drugs that we use. So the market is very, very untouched, not to talk of unsaturated. And then you have my brother who has gone into automotive. When I was military head of state, we have automotive in Ibadan, in Lagos, in Kaduna, in Enugu. They are today all dead. And the reason why they are all dead is because they were all left in the hands of government. That's why I'm happy that the one that is happening here is private sector led. It should be encouraged and it should be strengthened. Let me also say one thing. Talent. As you know, I am a talent hunter. I just go for talent. You know, anybody can be put in any place, but anybody cannot be a performer. To perform, you need certain attributes, certain competence, and talent is one of those things that you need. Let us develop talents and use them locally. Let them even be used in the private sector, in government, in the private sector and in the what do you call it? That's not the social. What do you call them? The one that are not public, not private. The third one. What do you call them? They are non-governmental organization. What do you call them? NGOs. Yeah, but you have a word for one word you use for them. Huh? What do you say? Yeah, but the NGOs, and we need talent, whether in the private sector, in the public sector, or in the NGOs. And we can search for them, we can develop them, and we can make them serve our purpose. Now, I want to thank you for making me part of this. I want to thank you Chukuma, that when we work together, you are a true, loyal servant, a true performer. And you've shown it here. So I still believe that after you are finished here in Anambra, which is an appetizer, you will still have to get the menu, the main meal, or what do they call it? What they call it? After the appetizer, what do you have? The main menu. The main course. Thank you. You will still have the main course. For me, either internationally, preferably, or nationally. I wish you well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Governor. Ladies and gentlemen, the oracle has spoken. Can we put our hands together for our delectable elder statesman, a president of this country for 8 years? He is also the Oga of our Oga. The Oga of our Oga, the Oga of our governor. Can we put our hands together for him? This is a clinical endorsement of the governor's achievements within 1 year. A man of great means upstairs. The solution governor is here with us. Baba himself. Some of us may not know that the late First Lady Stella Obasanjo, Bogo, Anambra State. Her mother came from Anambra State and from Ahuku, my town precisely. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, as Baba is greeting and having some banters with Anambra, we want to dilute the atmosphere, dilute what was served right now with some cultural entertainment from the Anambra State Cultural Troupe. And after that, 1 or 2 more testimonies and endorsements will come up. An indefatigable man, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. Someday, you're going to give us a lecture on longevity. The Baba himself, the great man of our time. Always consistent. Very, very consistent. All right, sir. Mr. Governor is escorting Baba himself. And Mr. Governor is coming back, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't think he's going, he's coming back. He's escorting the father of the nation. And so let us treat you to a cultural demonstration here, courtesy of the State Cultural Troupe. We want to appreciate all of us, all of you here. While that is being done, we take this interlude. Yes, Cultural Troupe, can you come up? Yes. Everything is going well. And we want to appreciate the presence of Ambassador Oke Emuche, MFR, the Secretary General of Ohaneze Worldwide, and of course, Chief Chike Madueke, President Aka Ikenga. Yes. Cultural Troupe, please, can you move on? You just have 3 minutes to play, please. Osi Bondo, Chief Engineer Ato Eze, is here with us live. One of our great sons. Please don't go, because we will entertain our VIPs. We have enough arrangement for you to eat. Please. And after this, Joby of Onitsha will speak to us. And the president of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria will also talk to us. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, so, Lady Soludo here, we want to welcome you, man. Yes, man, later you will talk, man. Yes. I'd like to remind us that Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu, the chairman of this event, is here live on direct. And our own Her Excellency Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu, former ambassador to Spain, is also here live and direct with us. Lady Bianca, Her Excellency, thank you. Honorable Studio Fodile. Honorable Studio Fodile, we want to welcome you. Okay, Mwanoka. A great author too. Please don't go. His Excellency Mr. Governor is coming back here. Professor Soludo is still here with us. And so, let us relax and have some entertainment from here. We have food for everybody. We are going to entertain everybody here. After this event, we have traditional palm wine from Obu and from Abubu. Enough of them here for us, because we are doing made in Anambra in everything. Oh yes. Jesco Oil, we want to thank you for coming. Akachukwu Wampo, we want to thank you for coming. We see a lot of our guys. Former Commissioner for Utilities, Emeka Zewanne, we want to welcome you here. So many people here in attendance, and this is the way to go. This is the way to go. Chief Austin Ogwejofo, MD Rodek, we appreciate your presence, a great man, a great son of Anambra State. Anambra will not matter. His Excellency, the former Deputy Governor of Anambra State, Nkem Okeke, Doctor, we want to welcome you.
Also, Mr. Koya Dinaka, Samuel Wawelu Gonasia, Chairman of this group of companies, want to welcome you. Oga Jesko, I don't think no, Ezibo Mother, you're welcome. Jesco Oil, Jesco Group, you're doing great, sir. And of course, Dozy Oil, I don't see Dozy, no, sir. You have remained consistent with us, and you support government very well. Go where they lie in Amma. Yes. Anambra were mother. I don't know. Chief Emeka Udodeme, President of Heneze Anambra State. I na say no. Obi Norubu. Oh yes. Tata Amaka onye ọbụla na-amakwa ibie. Onye ọbụla na-amakwa ibie. Soludo is the solution governor. Anambra adịgo mma. Ogome. 1 year in office of the solution government is a great step. We are on course. The direction is clear. The focus is clear. As soon as Mr. Governor comes back, we will take 1 or 2 comments and then entertainment will follow. I know that the spirit of Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu still lives with us. No shaking. Mama Anambra, number 1. Denveje Taba Inekenere, Daluma. And Itotagola Mama Ozo. Mama Anambra current. Dr. Mrs. Nonye Soludo. Solution Mama. Oh yes. Solution Mama. Odrofele. We want to appreciate you. The Solution Mama, Dr. Nonye Soludo. Arin Zerinde. Dalu Shinne O. Ezibo wine. Na akwudie n'iru na akwụkwọ ya na azụsef onye na-support ibe a na-aga aga. The clamor himself, double chief, chief of protocol and deputy chief of staff. I nekenere the glamorous glamour. I can also see a lot of my colleagues at the State Executive Council. We want to welcome you to this event. Even in Naga Fuma. Oh yes. Anambra State Cultural Troop in action here, ladies and gentlemen. This is our gift to the world, our cultural gift to the world of tourism and culture. Oh yes, oh yes. This troop has gone to China proper and has been performing each year in Abuja at the Chinese embassy. That's even the Bojanaka in the global tourism community. This occasion is still on, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome Bishop Ihala Diocese, Most Reverend Israel Okoye, the Bishop of Ihala Anglican Diocese. Want to welcome you to this event. My Lord, no shinne, I remember when you were Professor at Unizik, and then by the grace of God, you are our Lord Bishop Ihala Diocese, Anglican Communion. Thank you very much. Okwadike Iwugu, Chief Dr. Pius Chukwuemeka Ezive, the first executive governor of Anambra State. Thank you. We want to welcome Professor Greg Wakobi, Vice Chancellor Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University. I'm not saying no, sir. Chief Mrs. Josephine Aneni, I'm not saying no, ma. Once more, Adanambra Adamobia, Okome. Again, Chief of Staff. Ernest Ezajurion Eba Nahashi even. Ah yes. Yes, sir. Madu Juleju Balabalo. We thank you. Anambra is great. Moving from strength to strength. That's the way. That's the way it has to be. When a good man is on throne, the people rejoice. Please, what's happening up here, ladies and gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Governor, Professor Soludo is back, ladies and gentlemen. Our own Governor Igbo is back. So this event is taking a break from the break so that we can resume the final lap of this event. All right. With our Deputy Governor here with him, Dr. Onyekachukwu Ibezim. Oh yes. This is one great day we can't forget. Yes, so never. Oh yes. I will live in one. Jide. Oh yes. Thank you. The Secretary to the State Government, Professor Soludo. We want to appreciate you, sir. Odilizi. Obia.